dando gracias por lo que Él ha hecho. Deja a Dios levantarse en tu vida, como el sol se levanta en la mañana.
Paul and Beth were married in 1961. By 1964, they were in Colinas, Honduras, beginning to work on their first congregation. Paul and Beth worked with the group for 8 years until they were strong enough to support their own pastor. Next, they moved on to a town called Santa Barbara, where they really became involved in church planting. 4 years later, they saw over 20 churches established with the help of the members there. Then Hurricane Fifi hit, leaving much destruction in its path. All the missionaries were given an assignment. Paul's was to distribute Christian literature to the churches, equipping pastors, and in this way stimulating church growth. Supporters like you have made these ministries possible in the past, and hopefully through this video tour you will get a good idea of what you are supporting today in Honduras.
My main ministry is working with what's called the Consejo here. It's an elected group of leaders who works with the churches in the area. In the area there are some 75 churches or groups, including small congregations. And we work with those, helping them. Most of them do not have pastors. The 5 churches here in the city do have pastors. They can afford them. In the country, they're not able to afford pastors, so one of the big things is training leaders, training people, laymen, to become pastors. The idea is to have 5 in each church, which will do the preaching, the teaching, and the visiting, and everything that a church should be doing in the evangelism. So this group of elected officials, we work together closely, and we have the same vision.
An important part of my ministry is counseling and visitation in the homes. Many people come to the Lord this way, and it's a great way of helping people with their problems and praying with them in their homes. I also travel out with Paul to various places. We go to Montaña de la Flor, en el Ocotal, Las Flores, Maiquira.
Hurricane Mitch came along, and among the help that came for that were 2 tents, 2 circus-type tents, I'd say maybe medium-sized. These tents are used for evangelistic campaigns, are used for meeting. Many small churches need them for something, and I've been put in charge of taking care of those tents, and they are used for the Lord.
Setting up a tent can be exhausting physical labor. Paul usually starts the night before loading tools and components which will be used for the next day's operation. On this particular journey, we must leave early in the morning in order to allow enough time for setting up.
It's a lot of work to put up a tent, but it's a joy to see people accept the Lord under the tent. Tents are still part of the culture here and attract people that wouldn't go into a church, but they'll come to a tent and hear the gospel. Also, there are many meetings, like youth meetings. The churches like to get together for a party, and often the tent is needed for that.
Finally, after the long journey, we have arrived. A public soccer field such as this one is a typical place to hold an outdoor evangelistic campaign. Of course, everyone who promised to help with the setup didn't show up. So we'll have to make do with just a few hard workers. Come on, join in. It'll be fun. We'll have this up in no time. After a good sunburn, a backache, and a few hand blisters, we're ready to roll. At this point in your video tour, we take you to the Zaragoza Public School in the town of Cihuatepeque. And we're just in time because Beth is arriving to teach her Bible class. Shortly after the class starts, Beth instructs the children to stand as they sing a chorus. Beth's class is so popular that other children between classes crowd around the windows to hear the message, to hear that old story of Jesus and his love. After the class, we meet the principal, and he expresses his concern for the children's future and why he has invited Beth to teach Bible in this public school.
Nuestro es que el niño vaya sintiendo de que tiene que sentir uno amor por el prójimo, la otra es amor por su familia, amor por la naturaleza, y que en el futuro estos niños puedan ayudarnos aquí en la escuela, porque lo que estamos viendo es que una vez que ya salen del sexto grado, cuestiones así, rápido están metiendo en cuestiones de pandillas Entonces eso tal vez nos ayuda. Y más bien estaba pensando en usted el otro día que
At this time we will travel with you to Montaña de la Flor, translated Mountain of the Flower. This will be a long 7-hour trip, and many preparations must be made. Montaña de la Flor is home of the Tolpan tribe, a group of indigenous people who are part of your family in Christ Jesus. Immediately before departure, Beth quickly types an email message to prayer partners and supporters back in the States. The prayers of the saints are essential for this journey, since Honduran roads are plagued with heavily armed thieves, and breaking down in a remote area is always a possibility. After numerous attempts to send, the email will not go through. This service only works when it wants to, so we will have to rely on those who pray without being reminded. Along the way, we are once again reminded of the dangers of traveling. After several hours of travel, we find a good place for a rest stop. This restaurant has been forced to hire 3 armed security guards just to keep the highway bandits away. Good. A typical Honduran meal. Just what the doctor ordered to get our strength back. Go ahead, eat up. You're gonna need it to make it through the rest of the trip. The rest of the drive, about 4.5 hours, will be on dirt roads. So hold on to your seat, because we're back on the road. Well, so much for trying to cross over on the bridge. We can thank Hurricane Mitch for causing that disaster a few years ago. Oh, the truck needed a bath anyway. And we are definitely blessed today because the river is shallow. Other times, Paul and Beth have had to set up camp along the shore just to wait for the water level to go down. Gospel tracts. Paul never goes on a trip without them. Mostly everyone is pleased to receive papelitos, Spanish for little papers. The children especially yell, "Papelitos!" as Paul drives through their village. In many cases, they are the only ones in the family who are literate. Reading material is scarce in these towns, as books are unaffordable for the average family. In many cases, the school children are the ones who take the papelitos home and read the gospel to the grown-ups. Most of the time, Paul and Beth resort to tossing tracts out the window. We'll never get there if we stop for everyone, yet no one wants to miss out on their papelitos. Before arriving at Montaña de la Flor, we see a disturbing number of police vehicles coming the opposite direction. Something must be wrong, but what? A few days later, we will read the newspaper to discover it was a drug bust in a town close by. An illegal drug plantation where more than $400,000 worth of marijuana were successfully destroyed by Honduran police working in harmony with the United States Embassy. Finally, we have arrived at Montaña de la Flor, specifically the village of San Juan. The first thing we do upon arrival is visit the house of Chief Cipriano. No one is to come or leave the village without first convening with the chief, as a measure of good etiquette. Chief Cipriano is a humble man, over 100 years old, who has been blessed with good health and strength. He loves the Lord and encourages his people to do the same. After a quick visit with Chief Cipriano, we start to unpack the truck as family after family come out to greet us. It seems we're quite an attraction, the most exciting thing to roll into town all day. Brother Hernan is helping to carry a tote of medicines, which Paul brought for the tribe. This lady sells Beth a basket she wove. We will stay here at the house of Crispin Martinez, a Honduran missionary serving the Tolpan. Don't expect much privacy during your visit, because the children are always curious to see what's going on inside the missionary's house.
This is Crispin Martinez. He's a Honduran missionary here in Montaña de la Flor. He's been here for quite a while with his wife and children. Crispin, you want to say something?
Gracias, que el Señor les bendiga, sean bienvenidos, esperando que sigan orando por nosotros acá en el ministerio.
When I first started to come here, that bridge wasn't there. It's only been here the last 2 times. And this is, in the rainy season, there's really a current going through here. And they had some poles to go across, and they could just go hopping across those poles. Now I had to be so careful, and I'd slip off, and the water would come up to here.
This is the chapel, a fairly new building. The last one that was standing here was built of wood and was burnt down by enemies. We are ready for service to begin. So Paul rings the church bell, made of old auto parts. At no specific time, just whenever we're ready, and the people are faithful to trickle in and fill the seats. We are waiting for the chief to arrive. He will take his seat in one of these plastic chairs and give the green light for service to begin. It is a special treat when Paul comes to town because he starts up the generator and we have electric light.
Primero quiero saludar a mis hermanos. Muy buenas noches. Disculpas que no he venido. Que siento que el Señor quiere que yo venga una vez al mes y no fue posible. Un poco de salud, pero más la salud del carro. El carro no quería repararse, se repare una cosa y otra cosa falló y no tenía doble y todavía no esté todo bien. Pues lo mejor es que ore que me caiga del cielo un carro más nuevo, que no me moleste tanto, ¿verdad?
The chief closes with a long prayer, and Paul goes home to begin study on the next sermon.
However, let me tell you something. This is the only house that looks like this in all this area. Nobody else has a gas stove, a refrigerator, even a table. Most of the houses don't even have a table. So you were fixing breakfast.
As we visit with the Tolpan, it is very important to understand some of their background. Lynn Dennis, with SIL International, was instrumental in translating the New Testament to the Tolpan language, and she can share with us valuable information on what it was like working with them during those early years.
SIL first started working with the Tolpan people in 1961. The kind of people that they found were people who were living almost in a religious vacuum. Before the gospel came into the Tolpan in their own language, in a language that they could fully understand, they had gotten bits of the message. They had been evangelized by some Catholics in the past, about 100 years before. They had no written message to follow, and their understanding of Spanish was very faulty. And so 100 years later, what the information that they had, that they were able to tell us and others about who they thought Jesus Christ was, they didn't believe that he was some kind of a deity, some kind of a spirit being. He had come to earth, but they thought that he was just like any man, basically like an immoral man, in fact. And he had come and he had been very bothersome to the women, according to their story. And he had just had ordinary vices like an ordinary person. And he was killed, and he came back to life because, of course, he's God. And then he died, and then he was killed again, came back to life. He was killed again, came back to life. This happened 9 times, and finally he gave up on them. We presented them the opportunity to put their faith in the Lord. They react differently to the opportunity than people in the United States do, or in some other cultures, because they're a very cooperative culture. They prefer to talk about what they've heard among themselves, decide whether it's true, and a whole group of them come to the Lord at once. And this was actually what happened with the Tolpan. The chief turned to a number of others and said, okay, let's make our decision. And so 9 of them came and accepted the Lord at the same time. You see the look on their face change from one of total despair and hopelessness to the hope and joy that comes from really knowing the Lord Jesus Christ. And today we're seeing the situation entirely change. Now the group is opened up, and other ministries and other opportunities, organizations are coming in and doing more for them. The Lord is still interested in them, and he didn't stop with the input that we had in producing the New Testament.
We get into building sometimes. The country churches, when they want to build, it'll take them sometime 5 or even 10 years to start a building and to finish it because of poorness. And we have a number of men here in town and in the area, masons and carpenters that are willing to go and work. Also welders. We're no longer using wood because somebody up in the States said we shouldn't cut the tropical forest, so wood has gotten very expensive and very scarce. We're using metal in the roofs, especially in other parts of the churches, metal doors. And we have welders that are willing to do that free. And this will be for the guests when you come and visit Montaña de la Flor. We'll have some beds in here and an inside bathroom. It'll be the second one in the whole population of 2,000 people. And you'll be able to use the inside bathroom and sleep peacefully here in this guest house. I'm not a builder, but we get involved working with others in building. In the Tolpan Indians, here our area, our Consejo built a chapel for them that was done almost completely with funds from here and taking volunteers to work there. Interesting that because of the logistics to get into that place, it was impossible to carry blocks in, so we carried a block machine in, and the Indians learned to make the blocks, and then they've learned to lay the blocks. And now we don't take workers from here, but we're using the people there who have been trained to do the building.
Paul is encouraged by the day's work and steps back to capture the moment on film. Part of this building will be used as a guest house, and the other part will be used as a storage room for grains. This will be very useful for the tribe. As Paul works on the building, Beth is busy helping the women with a sewing ministry. With donations sent from the States, she purchases sewing machines which are given to the women.
This helps them with their financial difficulties because they can earn a little bit of money for buying with the things that they need. This brand new sewing machine that we're going to give to one of the ladies this morning. Most of these ladies already have one. And we have given away 10 sewing machines, and this is the 11th that we're giving away today.
Montaña de la Flor is only one of the many places where Beth's sewing ministry has helped to improve the quality of life for families.
How do we get the sewing machines? We get them from offerings that are given to me. With $100, we can buy one brand new straight stitch treadle sewing machine. They have no electricity out there, so that's the only kind of machine they can use, the treadle.
When Beth comes, the women are always anxious to see if another donation has come through so that one more lady can have her own sewing machine. They are also thrilled because each day that Beth is in town, she imparts a sewing class. Many of these women began learning to sew before they even owned a machine.
She made her dress. I told them to come with the things that they had made so that I could see them. La felicito. Un aplauso para ella. Benita is going to embroider this on her sewing machine. It's a straight stitch sewing machine. I've taught them how to embroider, and she's going to embroider it. It's a dish towel for the kitchen. People from roundabout places are now starting to come for them to sew and make clothes for other people, as well as making their own clothes. She made her dress. Okay, un aplauso para ella. They're learning quite rapidly. They're an intelligent people, and they like it. And so I've been helping them with that. Yes, cuatro. La mano del negligente empobrece, mas la mano del diligente enriquece. Proverbios 10:4. Quiere decir que si hacemos alguna cosa para vender, si no nos va a bendecir. Se va a vender y vamos a tener para comprar otra cosa. Es una promesa de Dios. Y si les hemos dado las máquinas, es para que se ayuden, ¿verdad? Para que se ayuden.
Whenever a lady receives a machine, Beth takes a picture to give people in the States a better idea of what they are supporting. On this trip, this is the family that was blessed to receive a machine. In a house that hardly has any furniture, this will be a prized possession. Many are the women all over the country who have been helped by the generosity of people like you. As we have therefore opportunity, let us do good unto all men, especially unto them who are of the household of faith. And everything seems to be going so well with our stay here at Montaña de la Flor. But little did we know that danger was lurking close by, because suddenly we received word that a young man who was leaving the town was held up at gunpoint by bandits and ransacked. These are the dangers on the road to Montaña de la Flor and many other Honduran highways. As soon as missionary Crispin hears the news, he rushes to the scene to help the victim. We take him to the closest clinic where he receives first aid. A bullet has passed through his abdomen and a second gunshot wound on his left arm. Crispin takes this opportunity to pray for the man, that his wounds may be healed and that he would realize his need for Jesus Christ as Savior of his soul. Unfortunately, the clinic is so unequipped, they have even run out of pain medication. So Crispin drives the wounded man to the closest hospital, many hours drive away. On occasion, the chief has sent word to Paul not to come to the town because bandits are operating in the area. Then he sends messengers a second time when the situation seems to have calmed down. When Paul and Beth need to communicate a message that they will be arriving at a certain place, such as Montaña de la Flor, they broadcast it on public radio by purchasing an advertisement and having it read strategically on a program that the recipient is likely to listen to. This has been an enjoyable visit, but the time has come to say goodbye, pack up, and head back to their hometown of Siguatepeque. So Paul and Beth visit a few homes before heading back. This lady asks Beth to fix her sewing machine. We find this man preparing reeds to make a basket. Then he proudly shows off the final product. This brother shows Paul the progress that they are making on translating the Old Testament from Spanish to Tolpan. They are currently working on the book of Ruth. And last but not least, we say goodbye to the chief and his family. Join us now as we take you back to Paul and Beth's hometown, conveniently located in the central area of the country, on a plateau famous for its green and luscious vegetation. Here lies the beautiful city called Siguatepeque. Come with us and we'll show you around the town.
Allí en el rancho grande, allá donde vivía, había una rancherita que alegre me decía, que alegre me decía. ¿Qué te decía, papá? ¿Qué voy a hacer?
shopping just now, my vegetable shopping. This was Safeway.
Over a decade ago, Beth became interested in a small congregation in an area of the city called Zaragoza. At that time, membership attendance was low. There were no musicians, and the few people who were coming to church were in dire need of committed, stable leadership. Beth filled in the void by imparting music classes, training leaders, and organizing children's ministries.
In the chapel in Zaragoza that I'm helping, when I started 10 years ago, or 11, there were only 2 small children in the Sunday school. But now the congregation has grown, and we now have a pastor, and the church is organized with elders and deacons and so forth. And the Lord is blessing our chapel and the work. We have a Awana club at the chapel. This is about our 6th year to have a Awana club, and I enjoy working with the children. For the first 4 years, I was the commander. Then I turned it over to one of the younger ladies, and she's doing a great job. I still work with them, but I'm not the commander anymore.
Let me tell you about 3 funds that we have. We look for dollars to help with that, or anywhere we can get help. They're one, the tool fund. The tool fund is especially for the Indians who live very far from where they can buy tools. Hello. Yes, these are tools. This is a very vital tool for Montaña de la Flor, for the native people there. They use this a lot. In fact, I've even seen them, instead of using a saw, they will cut a board with this and leave it exactly straight on the edge. They work tremendously with this. The problem is getting these tools. It's a long walk out from where the Indians are to a commercial area, and the prices are very high in those small towns way out in the country, and they do have a problem with getting tools. So we buy tools with this fund wholesale, and we provide them to the Indians. Usually it's about half price of what it would normally cost them, and they're very anxious to get these and need them very much. And then we take it to them because most of them don't like to leave their Indian area and come out and buy tools. So machetes are the main thing that we take, and of course they need the files to sharpen them. In fact, they come very dull, so you have to start by sharpening them. We don't use them for weapons, but for the agricultural work and all the work that they do. Another thing that they like is the axes. They make the handles for them. We take just the head of the axe, and this they will buy this in 50 lempiras, which is very little in dollars. So there's some subsidy to it. Maybe a third of it is subsidized, but they really get a good bargain in the tools and are very grateful for them. One of the things that they like, I think it's mainly their wives, but the men do the buying, are the corn mills. Their diet is mostly corn.
Of course, they used to grind corn with a stone, but with a corn mill, it is much easier and much quicker to do what they call breaking the corn. That way they can more efficiently get on to making the tortillas, tamales, or a myriad of other foods that are made with the ground corn.
So that's the tool fund. We do need help with that. The more we get, the more we can do. And they often ask for other things like radios or something, but we don't do that. We stick to tools that will help them in their work and what they're doing. The other fund is a food fund, which we take to the Indians and other places where there's a need for food. Just among the one tribe of Indians, there are 6 widows, and the people there share food with them, but they really need more.
Here, Paul purchases grains with money donated to the food fund.
Also, the people who help us aren't paid, they're voluntaries, and we give them food for appreciation for work they do, mainly in construction and other projects that we work with. Another fund is the book fund. This is not so much for the Indians as for the pastors. Our pastors are very poorly paid and very much need reference books. So we don't sell just any book, but reference books that the pastors need, and these are given to them bought wholesale. They can be provided to them about 1/3 of the cost: dictionaries, concordances, the commentaries, the books, so that they can have a good preaching ministry. Another of my ministries is searching for places where there is no church, no evangelical church exists, and planning a church there. And we're working in 4 places now, so that's a lot of work, and we'd like to work in other places, but those 4 places need attention. They need teaching, they need training. There's no hope of ever having a pastor in any of them. We need to train the leaders that are there, and most of these places are quite a trip away, maybe 60 miles or 80 miles to reach these places on poor roads. And we've got these 4 congregations going out in the country.
Some of these places have required hours of walking to reach. Although the roads are getting better now, and Paul is able to drive the car closer to the town, and the walks are getting shorter.
So that's quite a bit of time, quite a bit of the ministry, quite a bit of energy attending these groups.
Thank you very much for your prayers and financial support all these years. Without this, there's no way that we could be here. So we've been happy working for the Lord here, and the Lord has blessed our ministry, and the glory is all for Him.